She stood on my doorstep, rain soaking the hem of her coat, mascara streaking down her cheeks like someone had tried to paint regret. She fell to her knees and said, "Please, I made a mistake. I want you back." The woman who chose a stranger over me was begging on my doormat. But here's the twist. I wasn't a scared guy she left. I had changed. I had grown. And when she looked up, pleading for a second chance, I shut the door gently. Not out of cruelty, but because the man she wanted edited into her life no longer existed. Rewind with me. This story doesn't begin with her tears. It begins with the first lie she smiled through. Her name was Mia. She had a laugh that filled rooms and a way of making ordinary Mondays feel cinematic. We met at a friend's birthday party, and within months we were inseparable. People envied us for our chemistry. They admired the way we could argue and still find our way back to each other. I thought that meant we were safe. I told myself love could heal small cracks. I was wrong, but there was a soft warning I ignored, the little priorities that felt harmless at first and slowly made up a pattern. Mia loved being admired. She had a hunger for attention like some people crave coffee. At first, I chalked it up to charm. Later, I learned there's a difference between charm and an appetite for validation. The first sign was small, a late-night text from an unknown number accompanied by a photo. She dismissed it as harmless, and for a while I let it go. But the text multiplied, and so did the late nights out for networking or team dinners. It should have been obvious. One Thursday, I walked into a local bar to surprise her and found her with another man, laughing, his arm around her. The sight felt like a physical blow. When she saw me, she stiffened. Her smile faltered. If you ever hear your partner say, "You're overreacting, pay attention," that phrase is the quietest of their defenses. When I confronted her, she called my concerns drama. "You're too jealous," she said, turning my questions back on me like a weapon. I found messages, intimate, affectionate notes not meant for my eyes. The man wasn't a villain. He was simply willing to give her the attention I had taken for granted. Her defense became to eliminate my position as the skeptic. She painted herself as a victim of my insecurity, and I began to wonder if I really was overreacting or if I was finally seeing what I'd been avoiding. Some people gaslight not because they're cunning, but because they're afraid to own the pain they cause. Then one day she left. No fight, just a packed bag and a note. "I need to find myself. I'm sorry." That sentence played on repeat in my head until the words blurred. Friends tried to help. Family called. I spent nights examining every memory, searching for the moment everything went wrong. The pain made me small, but it also cleared space. In that empty place, I faced a decision. Crumble under the weight of betrayal, or use it as a lever to move myself somewhere better. The thing about heartbreak is it makes you feel small in places you didn't know existed, and huge in ways you never wanted to be. I could have slipped into self-pity. I could have become a cautionary tale about a man ruined by love. But grief has a sharp edge. You can either cut yourself open and bleed, or you can use the blade to carve something new. I threw myself into work, not to escape, but to reconstruct my identity. I signed up for a cooking class, started back at the gym, read books I'd always put off. I let my friends drag me to new places. Small wins accumulated. A well-delivered presentation, a weekend hike, a meal I cooked and actually felt proud of. The promotion came not because I forced it, but because I became the kind of person who earned it. People think transformation needs a dramatic overnight montage. It doesn't. It wants stubborn, quiet days. We had rituals, small, almost silly things that stitched us together. Sunday mornings were for thrift store hunting. Wednesday nights meant bad sci-fi and box pizza. Those rituals gave me a false sense of security. In truth, routines can be camouflage. They hide dissatisfaction until someone realizes a routine is all that's left. I remember one evening lying awake while she was in the next room laughing on the phone. The sound used to comfort me. That night, it sounded like distance. That little echo started to grow into a canyon. After she left, I went back to our apartment once to collect the rest of my things. The space felt like a stage stripped of props. Neighbors passed in the hallway with the awkward pity of witnesses. One kindly neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, offered me a plate of empanadas and said, "You'll find someone who knows your worth." Her kindness stung in the right way. It was the sort of human warmth that begins a small healing. Humiliation is public. Recovery can be private. Small acts of kindness matter in ways you only understand later. I started keeping a notebook of small wins. Woke up at 6 a.m., cooked a meal for friends, delivered a presentation without trembling. Reclaiming those tiny victories was like collecting pebbles to build a foundation. I forced myself into routines: reading, running, actual sleep. My diet shifted from late-night takeout to meals that made me feel steady and capable. These things sound trivial, but they have real power. One of the people who helped more than anyone knew was a junior copywriter named Kemi. She would sneak me coffee and ask about my weekend like it wasn't awkward to do so. Her small acts of normalcy helped me realize people could be kind without agenda. We became friends. She listened when I needed a vent and offered perspective when I couldn't see past the hurt. Small kindnesses multiplied into real belonging. When you think the world is empty, look for the hands that reach out. They exist. Months later, I posted a candid photo from a work retreat, laughing with colleagues, relaxed and present. It got likes and comments. She liked it first, then another, then a message. "We need to talk." I saw a pattern. People who chase thrills often find them transient, and they return to the place they once discarded when that thrill fades. Her new relationship shine dulled, and the parts of life I quietly rebuilt began to look appealing. We met at a cafe where the chairs didn't know our history. She arrived apologetic and raw. "I was selfish," she admitted. She spoke of loneliness and mistakes and how the excitement she chased had hollowed her. She begged for another chance, promising change. Her honesty was real, and in another life it might have been enough. I listened without the old anxiety. Listening became an instrument of boundary rather than surrender. Listening can be as powerful as saying no, but it can also be the beginning of clarity. When she finished, she reached for my hand. I felt the familiar tug of history, but I had a new truth. Forgiveness didn't mean returning to a broken shape. I told her I forgave her, but I would not re-enter the cycle that left me hollow. Forgiveness, for me, meant choosing a future that respected the work I'd done on myself. It meant maintaining the dignity earned in the months away. One night when we talked, she said something that stayed with me. I thought I needed to be someone else to be desirable. That confession was both a wound and a mirror. It taught me that people sometimes hurt because they're hurting themselves. And while that knowledge doesn't excuse betrayal, it makes space for complicated understanding. My anger could coexist with compassion without collapsing into surrender. Anger and compassion can live in the same room if you let them. Weeks later, there she was on my doorstep in the rain. She fell to her knees, mascara streaked, begging me, "Please, I messed up. I want you back. I'll change." I listened, not with the hunger of the man who feared losing her, but with the peace of someone who had learned how to value himself. Closing the door was an act of self-preservation. I didn't gloat. I didn't revel in her pain. I simply protected the life I'd built. Revenge isn't always about making someone suffer. Sometimes it's making yourself undeniable. Months into rebuilding, I briefly dated someone new. It had promise but showed me places I hadn't healed. The relationship ended not because of lack of affection, but because I needed to fully tend the soil before planting new seeds. The breakup wasn't failure. It was a signal that growth isn't linear. Time clarified everything. She reached out less than not at all. My life filled with people who stayed, friends who supported me, colleagues who respected me, relationships that moved with honesty and care. The betrayal taught me what I would no longer tolerate. It taught me to invest in people who chose to be present. The best revenge is a life you build that needs no explanation. If you're watching this and feel hollow after betrayal, know this: the void isn't the same as emptiness. It's a space where you can build better. You won't heal overnight, but with tiny, relentless acts of growth, you'll become someone who chooses dignity over desperation. She begged. I closed the door. Walking away was the bravest thing I ever did. If this story hit home, like the video, subscribe, and share with someone who needs this reminder. Comment below. Would you ever take someone back who begged after cheating? Let's talk.